Have you ever been in a situation where someone wronged you, disrespected you, or tried to drag you into unnecessary drama, and every fiber of your being wanted to clap back, to defend yourself, to put them in their place? But something inside whispered, "Don't say a word." And you didn't. And weeks later, you watched as life handled them in ways you never could have imagined? That, my friend, is the ancient art of saying nothing. And today, we're diving deep into the 7 specific moments when silence becomes your most powerful weapon. Moments when keeping your mouth shut doesn't make you weak, it makes you untouchable. Before we begin, if you're someone who's tired of reacting to every provocation, tired of defending yourself to people who don't deserve an explanation, and ready to master the Stoic power of strategic silence, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. This channel is dedicated to helping you become the highest version of yourself. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming. Let's get into it. Moment number 1. When someone is clearly trying to provoke you. Picture this. You're at work or maybe at a family gathering, and someone makes a comment. It's not even subtle. It's designed specifically to get under your skin, to make you react, to pull you into their chaos. You can feel your blood pressure rising, your heart starts racing, the perfect comeback is already forming on your tongue. Stop right there. This is the first critical moment to say absolutely nothing. And here's why this is pure Stoic wisdom. The Stoics understood that when someone is trying to provoke you, they're actually revealing their own weakness, not yours. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Think about that for a second. When someone is trying to drag you down to their level, they're showing you exactly where they live emotionally, in a place of insecurity, pettiness, and chaos. Your silence in this moment does something they never expected. It denies them the satisfaction they were desperately seeking. See, people who provoke others are emotional vampires. They feed off reactions. Your anger, your defensiveness, your frustration, that's their food. That's what makes them feel powerful. When you give them nothing, you're literally starving them of what they came for. But here's where karma enters the picture, and this is absolutely fascinating. When you refuse to engage, you force that person to sit with their own toxicity. There's no opponent, no argument, no drama to distract them from themselves. And that's when they start to unravel. I've seen it happen countless times. The person who tried to provoke you will often escalate, get louder, make more comments, try harder to get a reaction. And in doing so, they expose themselves to everyone watching. Other people notice. Your boss notices, your family notices, your friends notice. And without you saying a single word in your defense, the provocateur destroys their own credibility. That's karma working through your silence. If you're learning something valuable here, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. We're just getting started, and the next 6 moments are going to transform how you handle conflict forever. Let me tell you a real story. I knew a woman named Sarah who worked in a competitive corporate environment. One of her colleagues, let's call him Jake, constantly made passive-aggressive comments in meetings, trying to undermine her ideas and make her look incompetent in front of leadership. The old Sarah would have defended herself, argued, provided evidence of her competence. But after studying Stoic philosophy, she tried something different. Complete silence. Absolute professional neutrality. Every time Jake made a snide remark, she simply paused, smiled slightly, and continued with her work. She didn't defend, didn't explain, didn't engage. And here's what happened. Within 3 months, Jake's behavior became so obviously hostile and unprofessional that HR received multiple complaints, not from Sarah, but from other team members who were disgusted by his conduct. Jake was eventually put on a performance improvement plan, while Sarah got promoted. She never had to fight. Karma fought for her, but it only worked because she mastered the art of saying nothing. Moment number 2. When someone is explaining themselves after wronging you. This one is subtle but incredibly powerful. Someone has hurt you, betrayed you, or let you down, and now they're coming to you with explanations, excuses, justifications. They're talking in circles, trying to make you understand why they did what they did. They want your validation. They want you to say, "It's okay, I understand." This is your second critical moment to embrace silence. Here's the Stoic truth that most people miss. When someone wrongs you and then desperately needs you to accept their explanation, they're not actually apologizing. They're trying to absolve themselves of guilt without doing the real work of change. Epictetus taught that we should be more concerned with our own character than with managing other people's guilt. In other words, it's not your job to make someone feel better about hurting you. Your silence in this moment serves multiple purposes. First, it protects your dignity. When you stay silent, you're not rushing to make them feel comfortable. You're not minimizing what they did. You're not letting them off the hook easily. Second, your silence communicates something their words never could. Your actions speak louder than your explanations, and I'm watching what you do next, not listening to what you're saying now. But here's where karma becomes your ally again. When you don't immediately accept someone's excuses, you create space for truth to emerge. Sometimes people will rise to the occasion. They'll recognize that their words aren't enough, and they'll actually change their behavior. That's beautiful, and your silence made it possible. Other times, they'll get frustrated that you're not playing along, and they'll reveal their true character even more clearly, showing you that they weren't actually sorry, they just wanted you to stop being upset. Either way, karma delivers clarity, and you didn't have to argue, explain, or justify your feelings. You just stayed silent and let their character reveal itself. Make sure you're subscribed, because what's coming next is the moment most people get completely wrong, and it costs them their peace, their reputation, and sometimes their entire relationships. Think about the last time someone wronged you and came with a lengthy explanation. Maybe they cheated, or broke a promise, or talked behind your back. They wanted you to understand the context, the circumstances, all the reasons why it wasn't really their fault. And maybe you engaged with that conversation. You asked questions. You tried to understand. You eventually said something like, "Okay, I get it." But did you really? Or were you just exhausted from the conversation and ready for it to be over? Here's what I've learned. The people who truly change don't need you to accept their explanations. They need you to see their changed behavior over time. And the people who just want to feel better about themselves will keep coming back with more and more elaborate explanations, none of which result in actual change. Your silence is a filter. It separates the genuinely remorseful from the merely uncomfortable. And karma ensures that over time, you'll clearly see which category someone falls into, all without you having to say a single word. Moment number 3, when people are gossiping about someone else. Let me set the scene, because we've all been here. You're in a group setting, and the conversation shifts. Suddenly, everyone is talking about someone who isn't there. Maybe it's a mutual friend, a coworker, a family member. The stories are flowing, some of it might even be true. People are laughing, adding their own observations, and there's this collective energy of judgment and entertainment. And then, all eyes turn to you. Someone asks, "What do you think?" Or, "You know them too, right? Have you noticed?" This is moment number 3, and it's a test of your character that most people fail without even realizing it. The Stoic response? Say nothing. Or if you must speak, redirect the conversation, but never, ever add fuel to the gossip fire.
Seneca wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a person perfected without trials." When you're presented with the opportunity to gossip, you're being tested. Will you trade someone else's dignity for a moment of social bonding? Will you strengthen your character or weaken it?
Here's what most people don't understand about gossip. When you participate in tearing someone else down, you're not just hurting them, you're showing everyone present exactly what you're capable of. Every person in that circle is making a mental note. If they'll talk about that person this way, they'll definitely talk about me too. Your silence in this moment elevates you. It shows integrity. It shows strength. It shows that you can't be recruited into petty alliances based on criticizing others. And karma? Karma is keeping score. I promise you, the people who gossip the most eventually find themselves isolated and untrusted. It might take months or years, but it always happens. Meanwhile, the person who consistently refuses to participate in gossip becomes known as trustworthy, discreet, and safe. Opportunities come to that person. Genuine friendships come to that person. Respect comes to that person. All because they mastered the art of saying nothing when others were running their mouths. If this is resonating with you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. These principles will change your life, but only if you keep learning and applying them. Don't let this be just another video you watch and forget. Let me give you a powerful example. I once worked in an office where gossip was basically the unofficial department pastime. Every lunch break, every coffee run, someone was being discussed. And for a while, I participated. I told myself it was harmless, that everyone did it, that I was just being social. But then I studied Stoicism and realized I was compromising my own character for temporary social acceptance. So I stopped, completely. When the gossip started, I'd get quiet or change the subject. At first, people thought I was weird. A few even got defensive, as if my silence was judgment of their behavior, which, to be fair, it kind of was. But here's what happened over the next year. Two of the biggest gossipers in the office got into a massive falling out because they had both been talking about each other. The drama was intense, HR got involved, and their careers stalled. Meanwhile, when a management position opened up, I was approached by leadership who specifically mentioned that they valued my professionalism and discretion. I didn't campaign for that role. I didn't defend myself against the gossip that I'm sure was happening about me too. I just stayed silent, focused on my work, and let karma handle the rest. And it did. Moment number 4. When you're right and someone is clearly wrong. Oh, this one is tough. This might be the hardest moment on this entire list because everything in your ego wants to speak up. You're in a discussion, maybe a debate, and you absolutely know that you're right. You have the facts, you have the logic, you have the receipts. The other person is confidently incorrect, and it's taking everything in you not to embarrass them with the truth. Here's the Stoic moment of power. Let them be wrong. Say nothing. I can already hear some of you protesting, but if I know the truth and I don't speak up, isn't that weak? Isn't that letting them win? No, absolutely not, and here's why. The need to always correct others, to always prove you're right, is not a sign of intelligence or strength. It's a sign of insecurity. It's your ego demanding validation. Marcus Aurelius, literally one of the most powerful men who ever lived, wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Notice what he didn't write. If you are right, make sure everyone knows it. When you're secure in your knowledge and your truth, you don't need to prove it to everyone around you. You can let someone remain wrong without it threatening your sense of self. This is advanced Stoicism. This is emotional maturity. This is the kind of inner strength that most people never develop. And karma? Karma is absolutely brilliant in these situations. When you let someone confidently state something incorrect without correcting them, one of two things will happen. Either they'll eventually discover they were wrong, and they'll remember that you didn't embarrass them, which builds respect and trust,
Or they'll continue being wrong and eventually face natural consequences that have nothing to do with you.
Subscribe to this channel if you're ready to operate on this higher level of consciousness where you're not driven by the need to be right, but by the commitment to be at peace. Here's a perfect example. I have a friend who's a doctor, and she told me about a dinner party where someone was confidently explaining a medical concept completely incorrectly. This person was going on, and everyone was listening like this person was an authority. My friend stayed silent. Her husband kept looking at her, expecting her to correct the misinformation, but she just smiled and sipped her wine. Later, her husband asked why she didn't say anything. She said something profound. "I'm not the medical correctness police for dinner parties. If someone in that room actually needs accurate medical information, they'll ask their doctor, not rely on dinner party conversation. I'm not going to embarrass someone and kill the social vibe just to feel intellectually superior for 30 seconds. 2 months later, the person who was wrong actually came across the correct information and brought it up to my friend, saying, "I think I might have had that wrong when we talked at dinner." She graciously said, "These topics can be confusing." And that was it. The person later told others how kind and humble my friend was, never realizing that she had been silently correct the entire time. That's karma working through wisdom. That's the art of saying nothing. Moment number 5, when someone is projecting their issues onto you. This moment requires real psychological awareness. Someone is upset, angry, or frustrated, and they're directing it all at you. They're making accusations that don't match reality. They're attributing motives to you that aren't there. They're essentially describing themselves, but claiming they're describing you. This is projection, and it's one of the most common psychological defense mechanisms. And this is your 5th critical moment to embrace silence. Here's why. When someone is projecting, they're not actually talking to you, they're talking to themselves. They're externalizing their own internal conflict. Epictetus taught that we are disturbed not by things, but by the views we take of them. The person projecting onto you is disturbed by their own internal views, and they've temporarily cast you in the role of the villain in their internal drama. If you engage with projection, if you defend yourself, if you try to logic someone out of their irrational accusations, you're wasting your energy. You cannot reason someone out of a position they didn't reason themselves into. Their accusations aren't based on your actual behavior, they're based on their fears, insecurities, and unresolved trauma. Your silence in this moment is not passive, it's protective. You're protecting your energy, your peace, and your sanity. You're refusing to accept responsibility for someone else's emotional chaos. And karma handles projection beautifully. People who constantly project eventually push everyone away. They burn through relationships. They create patterns of conflict that follow them everywhere they go. And one day, they're forced to look in the mirror and realize the common denominator in all their problems is them. Meanwhile, you're at peace because you didn't absorb their chaos. You didn't internalize their accusations. You stayed silent and let their projections bounce off you like arrows off armor. If you're gaining valuable insights from this video, hit that subscribe button. We're about to cover the final 2 moments, and they might be the most important ones of all. I experienced this firsthand with a family member who was going through a difficult time. Every interaction became about how I was judgmental, unsupportive, and uncaring. None of these accusations were based on anything I'd actually done. I'd been nothing but supportive. But this person was dealing with deep shame about their own choices and was projecting that shame onto me as judgment. The old me would have argued, provided evidence of all the ways I'd been supportive, maybe even gotten hurt and withdrawn completely. But I understood what was happening. So, I stayed silent. I didn't defend, I didn't argue. I just said, "I'm sorry you're feeling that way," and left space for them to process their emotions. It took about 6 months, but eventually this person came back and apologized. They said, "I don't know why I was taking everything out on you. You've always been there for me, and I couldn't see it because I was so caught up in my own stuff." That's karma. That's the natural consequence of projection. Eventually, the truth becomes undeniable. And because I stayed silent, our relationship survived intact. Moment number 6. When someone disrespects you in front of others. This moment activates every defensive instinct you have. You're in a group setting, could be a meeting, a social gathering, a family event, and someone disrespects you. Maybe they dismiss your idea, mock something you said, or make a joke at your expense. Everyone is watching. Everyone is waiting to see how you'll respond. The societal programming tells you to clap back immediately, to defend your honor, to put them in their place so everyone knows you're not someone to be messed with. That's what ego demands. But Stoicism offers a different path: dignified silence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." When someone disrespects you publicly, they're making a bet. They're betting that you'll react emotionally, that you'll get flustered, that you'll lose your composure. They're trying to look powerful by making you look weak. Your silence doesn't give them that satisfaction. Instead, it does something they never expected. It makes them look petty. When you respond to disrespect with calm, unbothered silence, you shift the social dynamic entirely. The audience's sympathy moves from the aggressor to you. People instinctively respect someone who doesn't need to defend themselves because they're secure in who they are. Here's the karma aspect. Public disrespect always backfires on the disrespecter. Always. Maybe not immediately, but eventually. People who make a habit of putting others down publicly develop a reputation. They become known as insecure, mean-spirited, and untrustworthy. Opportunities dry up. Genuine relationships become impossible. They might have a few people who laugh at their jokes in the moment, but nobody actually respects them. Meanwhile, the person who maintained dignity in the face of disrespect becomes admired. People think, I want to have that kind of composure. I want to be that unbothered by what others think. You become the standard. Make sure you're subscribed because we're about to reveal the 7th and final moment, and it's the one that most people never master, which is why they stay stuck in cycles of drama and dysfunction. Let me share a powerful story about this. A friend of mine was in a business meeting pitching an idea to potential investors. One of the investors interrupted him mid-presentation and said, "This is one of the most naive business models I've ever heard. Have you actually thought this through, or did you just watch a YouTube video and think you were ready to start a company?" The room went silent. Everyone was mortified. My friend paused, took a breath, and said, "Thank you for your feedback," and then continued his presentation without any defensiveness or explanation. The meeting wrapped up, and he assumed that investor was out. But here's what happened. A different investor who was in that meeting reached out privately and said, "The way you handled that disrespect showed me more about your character and your ability to handle pressure than any pitch deck ever could. I want to invest." That investor not only funded the company, but introduced my friend to a network that transformed his business. And the disrespectful investor? Word got around in the investment community about his behavior. Multiple founders mentioned in private forums that they'd never work with him because of how he treats entrepreneurs. His reputation suffered, while my friend's soared. That's karma. You don't need to defend yourself. Just maintain your dignity and let time do the rest. Moment number 7. When you know a relationship is over. This final moment is perhaps the most profound and the most difficult. You're in a relationship, could be romantic, friendship, or professional, and you know it's over. You've seen enough, you've tried enough. The behavior patterns are clear. This person is not going to change. This relationship is not going to improve. It's done. In this moment, most people make a critical mistake. They try to explain why they're leaving. They try to make the other person understand. They have long conversations about what went wrong, hoping for closure or mutual agreement that this is the right decision. But here's the Stoic truth. You don't owe anyone an explanation for protecting your peace. Seneca wrote, "Associate with those who will make a better person of you. Welcome those whom you can make better."
When a relationship is no longer serving mutual growth, you have every right to walk away, and the most powerful way to walk away is often silently. This doesn't mean you ghost people without a word in healthy relationships, but when you've already communicated your needs multiple times, when you've already set boundaries that were violated, when you've already given more chances than was wise, you don't owe an explanation for your exit. Sometimes the most respectful thing you can do is just leave.
Your silence in this moment protects you from manipulation. Because here's what happens when you try to explain why you're leaving a toxic relationship. The other person will argue with every reason you give. They'll make promises to change. They'll gaslight you into thinking you're overreacting. They'll turn your reasons back on you. Before you know it, you're defending your decision to choose peace, and that's a game you can never win. Karma handles these situations with perfect precision. When you silently remove yourself from toxicity, that toxicity doesn't disappear, it just finds a new target. And over time, the pattern becomes undeniable. The person you left will likely repeat the same behaviors with others. They'll create the same conflicts. They'll face the same consequences. And you won't be there to see it, because you'll be too busy building a better life. Subscribe to this channel if you're ready to choose yourself. Set boundaries without guilt, and let karma fight your battles for you. I'll share one final story that brings this all together. I had a close friend for over a decade. We went through everything together: breakups, career changes, family drama. But over time, I noticed a pattern. This friend only reached out when they needed something: emotional support, money, help with projects, job connections. I was there for all of it. But when I was going through challenges, this friend was nowhere to be found. When I had good news, they minimized it or changed the subject to themselves. I had multiple conversations about this. I set boundaries. I explained how the one-sidedness hurt. Every time, there were apologies and promises to do better, but the behavior never changed. Eventually, I made the decision to step back. I didn't send a long message explaining all the ways I'd been hurt. I didn't list the examples of their selfishness. I just stopped initiating contact and stopped being available for their crises. The friendship faded naturally. Did this person reach out demanding an explanation? Yes. Did they accuse me of being a bad friend, of abandoning them? Yes. Did I engage with those accusations? No. I stayed silent. I protected my peace. Here's the karma part. About a year later, a mutual acquaintance mentioned that this former friend had been complaining about how everyone eventually leaves them and how they can't understand why they can't maintain friendships. The pattern had continued with others. They still hadn't looked in the mirror, but that wasn't my problem anymore. I had moved on, built healthier friendships, and freed up emotional energy that I'd been wasting on someone who was never going to reciprocate. That's the power of moment number 7. Sometimes silence isn't about winning an argument. It's about winning your life back. When you master the art of saying nothing, you're not being passive. You're not being weak. You're being strategic. You're conserving your energy for battles that actually matter. You're maintaining your dignity. You're protecting your peace. You're letting karma do the heavy lifting. Before we close out, I need you to do something for me. If this video added value to your life, if you learned even one thing that you'll apply starting today, hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. This channel exists to help you become mentally stronger, emotionally wiser, and spiritually grounded. We dive deep into Stoic philosophy, practical psychology, and ancient wisdom applied to modern life. Don't just be someone who watches these videos and moves on. Be someone who applies these principles. Be someone who transforms their life one Stoic practice at a time. Subscribe, join this community, and commit to your growth. Let me leave you with one final thought from Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. The moment you realize that your peace doesn't depend on others' behavior, that your worth doesn't depend on others' validation, that your happiness doesn't depend on others' understanding, that's the moment you become truly free. And that freedom starts with mastering the art of saying nothing. Go forward with this wisdom. The next time someone tries to provoke you, stay silent. The next time someone disrespects you, maintain your dignity. The next time you're tempted to gossip, change the subject. The next time you want to prove you're right, let it go. Trust karma. Trust the process. Trust that silence is sometimes the loudest response. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more content like this, and remember, sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is absolutely nothing. Let karma win for you. I'll see you in the next video. Stay stoic, stay strong, stay silent when it matters most.